Action. Okay, so it's week 12. Can you believe it? You are using time in your course projects, some form of time. Hours of sleep. Yeah. What are you using? Okay. Okay. And you, hours of sleep. So have you tried to plot time like in a line chart? Well, it turns out that it's not so easy because Excel has a hard time with time. It's just the way it is. I'll show you. I'll show you why in a second. So that's one resource. There's another resource that if you want to calculate time, like subtract time, like some people are calculating their bedtime and then their awake time, and then subtracting one from the other. But that's also tricky because most of us, our time goes for, if it's on the same day, it's easy. But if it goes from one day to the next, like most of us do, if you go to sleep before midnight, right, and you wake up the next day, Excel has a hard time subtracting time that way too. So anyway, this is a little tutorial here that you can look at, and then I'm going to go through this one right now. Just a reminder, last Sunday solution period. So file here. You may want to do this too if you have time in your course project. So this is just an old example here. Let me see if I got. All right. So the trick to plotting time is you have to convert time to a number. So like if you just want to show, this is a line chart with some data in it that I made up for hours slept, and there's not a run chart, it's a line chart because we don't have the median calculated. But if I wanted to create this, the equivalent of this chart, so I'm going to actually start over here. And so here I've recorded time like a lot of you are doing. So you can see here that the first night it was 6 hours and 45 minutes. The next night was 8 hours and 5 minutes, and so on and so forth, right? So these are just times that someone has slept. If I go to plot this, oh, by the way, so when you type this in, so if I typed in 6:45 colons 45, right? That's our normal way of showing time. This is what happens. It will automatically format it to this custom format, 6:45 a.m. So Excel now thinks that it's either a.m. or it's 6 hours and 45 minutes. Either way, it gets stored in Excel. And the way that it gets stored is that it becomes time, and time is stored as a fraction of a day. So 6 hours and 45 minutes is about how much of a day? A little over a quarter, right? So that's what gets recorded. So what you have to do, so anyway, if I try to plot this, well, this is what's going to happen. I'm going to go to Insert, and I'll go to my recommended charts, and I can't find anything because it says there's no data. Well, I'm looking at data, but it's not charting it. The problem is that it says it doesn't contain any numbers, and the text cannot be summarized. So that's one of the reasons. That's what time is not a number in Excel. So you have to convert it to a number. So here's what you do. I'm just going to create an equivalent column. So I'm just sticking it over here, and I might put hours slept, and maybe number. Maybe we just put the number sign here. So I'm going to recreate, in order to get this data to reappear here, what do I do? I just type equals, and then it's cell D2, and now we have 6:45. And if now I want to format this, we'll go back to the home. See, it's custom formatted. Let's see, how is it formatted? So it's custom formatted as hours and minutes. That's actually what we want, but we need to change it to a number. All right, so we'll leave 2 decimal places, and see it says the sample 0.28. That's about right. That's a little over a quarter of a day. right? So I'm going to say okay. So now we have the 0.28. So in order to make it back into hours, how many hours are in a day? So it's 0.28 of 24 hours. And so when you say of, the arithmetical equivalent is what? Multiply times, right? So I'm going to multiply that times 24. And now it returns a number in terms of hours. It's 6.75 hours. So I'm going to, what's that? Yes, keep both. You have to keep both of them because if I delete this, yeah, right. So you always have to have that there as the source. So you're going to have like a phantom or a secondary column with your numbers here. So let me just undo that. So now this is what happens when I go to plot the data. I'm going to go to my Insert tab, and I'm going to choose. I can either choose a line chart, or I always go to Recommended Charts. So I see a line chart here that I kind of like, and I'm going to say OK, and I'm going to move that over here. So we can see now we're able to show a line chart. And if I want to show markers, I can go to Format Data, go to Letter Paint Bucket, Marker Options, and then get rid of it. Okay. So here we have a chart of days. If I had dates here, the dates would appear down here. So here's 19 data points here, hours slept, right? So that's what you do. Okay. So it's a little frustrating, and sometimes when you need to calculate, so for your pivot charts and your pivot tables and things like that, if you want to get data to appear, you're going to have to convert it. And there's several other ways to do it, but this is the easiest way to do it, I think. Does it make sense? That's fine. That's good. Then it's because then it's a number. Yeah, but some people are not doing that, and so another thing that folks are doing is they'll maybe nap time. They'll record nap time, and so they'll record 45 and then minutes, and then 55 minutes. And so what happens? So and if I wanted to get the average of these two things, I would type equals average. What do you think is going to happen when I try to do the average of these two cells? I get an error, right? Why is that? Yeah, because it doesn't know what this is. It doesn't think it's a number. So I got to get rid of the numbers there and the mins there. So if you have data that look like that, then you can get the calculation to work. So Excel and most programs need your data to be clean. So that's it. Any questions with how to calculate and plot time? Yes. So I just brought that same information over. So I said equals D2. So that's the information where I have my time recorded in hours and minutes. And then I multiply that times 24 because it just returns, Excel records the embedded information in a decimal, in a fraction of a day, as 0.28, and you have to multiply that 0.28 times 24. So that's what I did. Yes. Oh, and then I changed the format. So this is in custom format, hours and minutes, and then I changed the format to number format for all of these. Yeah, that's an important piece. Yep. So if I wanted to show minutes, what would I do? What would the formula be? So if I wanted to change this from hours to minutes, this might be a good test question. If there's 24 hours in a day, how many minutes are there? 24 times 60, exactly. Right? There's 60 minutes in an hour, right? So then I could just plot's going to look the same, but it's just showing it in minutes. Okay. Sometimes, so someone I think is literally looking at hours slept and minutes slept for napping, and so you can't really compare them because the charts look different. So I'm suggesting that you put them on the same scale. Either put one on hours and all of them on hours, or all of them on both of them on minutes, whichever makes more sense. So endeth the lesson.